Personnel Committee is being brought to order. And members present are Alder Galvin, Alder Dorf, Alder LaFave, and Alder Corpus Dax.
Patrick,
Sure.
approval of the agenda.
Well,
What did you want?
the agenda is next. I just did roll call.
Yeah.
We're all here.
So I'm
Yeah,
just,
I said here.
oh.
Very
We're all here.
quietly.
Yeah.
We're all here.
Yes.
All right, looking for approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Under D, regular business.
Are we waiting?
Okay. Number one, presentation by M3 on the city's health insurance plan. Staff.
So we do have a representative from M3, Cindy Van Esten, is here to give a presentation.
All right.
How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me this evening. I think Joe passed out the PowerPoint presentation. What I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about was the current benefits offered by the city to the employees. Talk a little bit about self-funding. I don't want to assume that you know what self-funding is. I thought I'd just talk a little bit about the self-funding on the health plan. The current population on the health plan. How is the current plan performing? What has the trend of the city plan been? And then what are our recommendations going into 2019? Is that all right? So if you look at slide 2, the benefit portfolio, the city offers to the employees a full health plan, medical plan with one plan design option. The benefit deductible is a $2,250 in-network deductible, $4,500 out-of-network deductible, and a family deductible of $4,500 in-network and $9,000 out-of-network. UMR is the third-party administrator for this plan. UMR is a wholly owned subsidiary of United Healthcare, and it is their self-funded arm of their business. We access the United Healthcare's Choice Plus network, which is a national network, and your utilization in network is at 99.7%. So when you look at these plan designs and you look at out-of-network, you have very minimal out-of-network exposure happening, and it is a national network. I also offer a dental plan that is, we use Humana as a third-party administrator for dental. We have a vision program, which is voluntary with superior vision. We have a flexible spending account through Benefit Advantage. And we have life insurance, voluntary long-term disability, and short-term disability through the city. So that's just a high-level glance.
I was just going through that first one. You got down here, other services. You have prescription drug benefit provided by Optimum RX. Is that the mail order?
Is that what?
Is that the mail order?
Well, there is mail order, but Optum RX is the name of the pharmacy benefit manager that is also a wholly owned subsidiary of United Healthcare. So we have UMR as the third-party administrator, and then Optum is our pharmacy. And then we also have a stop loss. In fact, I'll talk a little bit more about what stop loss is and who our stop loss partner is.
No, my question is it that the employees would just go through mail order, or can they go through a pharmacy, themselves?
Yes, they can go to a pharmacy. They do have mail order as an option.
Okay.
But they can go to any pharmacy, and all of the pharmacies in this geographic area are considered in-network.
Okay.
So the plan, look at slide 4, the plan is self-funded. Self-funded means that the city assumes the administrative, the financial, and legal responsibility for the health plan. So instead of paying a premium to a health insurance company, we hired an administrator, which in this case is UMR, to administer the plan design. Does everybody understand and know what self-funding is? Then I won't spend a lot of time on the self-funding, but I will keep moving on to get to the plan design and how the plan's performing, if that's okay. So slide 6, our current population. We have 842 active employees on the plan, 108 retirees. Total number of members who covered belly buttons under the plan is 2,576. Of that, 950 are employees, 612 are spouses, and 1,014 are dependents. 48.6% of the population on the plan is female, and the average age of the whole membership is 32.7. So how the plan is currently performing is on slide 7. There are 3 health plan performance monitors on here. This first one you're looking at is an aggregate of your active and your retiree population. So this report, just going down from the top, UMR is our administrator, and our pharmacy benefit is with Optum RX, and our reinsurance carrier for stop loss is Symetro. Our specific stop loss deductible is at $275,000, and we have an aggregated spec at $65,000. So the city's responsible for the first $275,000 of every covered member. Once that $275,000 is met, this aggregating spec of $65,000 can be one or many, and it kind of blankets over that $275,000 per member. It's an opportunity to buy down the premium with a little bit more exposure to the city. So the aggregating spec is $65,000. In the center of the page, you'll see the aggregate premium rates of single and family. And again, it's aggregate because this document's looking at the active employees plus the retiree population. Going down into the middle of the document, from left to right, we produce this report monthly so that we can always understand where the plan is running from a claims dollars going out and premium dollars coming in. So for the first 7 months of the plan, the provider network fees have been $111,797. Part of our relationship with UMR, we access into that Choice Plus network. That network has access fees to go through it. The administration and the Affordable Care Act fees and compliance fees to pay the UMR is at $163,000. M3 consulting fees as well as wellness is the next bucket there. Wellness includes Health 1265, health risk assessment, the on-site nursing services are all built into that wellness program for $107,242. And our stop loss and transplant premiums of $372,000. I mentioned on top that we have a specific stop loss, $275,000. We also have in place a transplant program which protects the plan another level. And at any time there's a transplant, it pulls it out of the stop loss and it pulls it out of the plan to a separate insurance carrier. So it's another level of protection for very high cost services. So our total fixed costs for the first 7 months of the plan year are $814,771. The next bucket is what we consider the variable cost. That's where our medical paid claims are and our pharmacy drug claims. Our total variable costs through 7 months are $7,325,000. You'll notice a column that says paid claims over stop loss deductible. If we had any members hit over that $275,000, we would see reimbursement back to the plan. And this is where it would show up, reimbursement back because we hit our threshold. So our total costs for a variable are $7,325,000. When we add our variable costs and our fixed costs, the total plan costs for the first 7 months of the plan year are $8,140,158. The 3 columns on the right are really talking about single contracts and family contracts. That means single employees covered as a single, or how many employees are covered as a family by month. We roll that up on the bottom, and on the left you'll see there was an average single enrollment for these 7 months of 289 employees, and an average enrollment of family of 658 for a total enrollment count of 947. In the middle, we're looking at where our loss ratio is, and this is talking about our total plan costs for these 7 months and our projected plan costs. Our projected plan costs come from last year about this time when we determined what your premium equivalents needed to be for the risk on the plan and the plan design that was in place. Our projected plan costs of $8,228,000, and the difference of that $88,000, the plan's running at a funding loss ratio of 99. Ideally, we want to stay under 100. If we're under 100, claims out is less than that premium in. On the bottom right, we're looking at what are the costs per employee per year. So our fixed cost is $1,475. Well, our claims and pharmacy costs are at $13,000. Rolled up together, our per employee per year cost is $14,740. We're showing you a benchmark under here. Public sector benchmark is $16,733. So the plan is actually performing better than the public sector in the market. If you wanted a private sector as an example, is $13,400. So the city's plan is running really close to what private sector plans are for a per employee per year cost.
Are you concerned that the funding ratio is at 99%? Isn't that so close to 100%?
It is close. We're gonna actually go right
Oh,
into that.
all right.
Right, you're right on. If you flip the page, this is looking at that same data, but this is active employees only. So if you drop down to the middle section on the bottom, total plan costs, projected plan costs, and the dollar difference, your actives are running at a 95% loss ratio. And you'll notice there on the bottom, the per cost per employee at $14,474. The sheet right behind that is your retirees. So there are 99 retirees in this 7-month period as average on the plan, and they're running at 137% loss ratio. So right to your comment there, 137% loss ratio. Several years ago, the council, by recommendation from the Personnel Committee, put in place a differential between the retiree population and the actives, that the retiree population would increase by 6.6% above and beyond each year, whatever the actives premium was at. Working to create a differential, you can see how it would be hard to offset the entire cost of that utilization into that population, but it does create a different burden level.
Is it enough?
Is it, well, it doesn't cover the total burden of the differential,
But it's,
but it starts to, if you were to take the entire retiree utilization and have them pay that full premium, it would make the plan probably not affordable. And so this is a way to offset it while still maintaining affordability for that retiree population.
Is the city doing work with them like they do with the employees for health maintenance? You know, they have programs where they can get involved in different programs. They're trying to up their healthiness, or is this just, I mean, within that group of retirees, is there a subgroup that is really, you know, hitting us hard with medical costs and things like that?
Well, there is a group, you can see they're higher utilizers and their cost per employee per year is much higher. But I think to your question, is there a subset of work being done to help them? No, there's not. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to manage the plan different and some recommendations as well.
when they go to Medicare, does that amount change?
Actually, the retirees, once they hit age 65, are off your plan.
Okay.
So this is the.
This is just that in between?
Yes,
Okay.
and so it's that in between, and they're not Medicare eligible yet.
Right.
So they'd end up in the individual market today, which is not very robust.
Right. Okay.
So slide 10 is a really busy slide, and really the message on this slide is about 3/4 of the way down in the green area where it says total payments. If you look at the line 2 under that says total paid. Total paid in 2014 for the plan was $13,789,000. In 2014, it was 13,185,000. In 15, 13,415,000. In 16, 13,196,000, and in 2017, 12,691,000. This would tell you that the plan trend has been stable for the last 5 years. The story that's not on this page, in 2013 and 2014, there was a $500 deductible in place. In 2015, the deductible changed to $1,500. In 2016, the deductible was $1,500. We have what we call a deductible reimbursement account that covers the last 500 of that deductible, but it exposes the member to that higher deductible on the front end. And then in 2017, that deductible for the employees increased again to $2,250. We held that same deductible at $2,250 in 2018 as well, and in 2018, we held the rates flat. So from 17 to 18, there was not a plan design change, and there was not a rate change. So while the plan on here shows stable and your trend has been pretty flat, it's been flat because we've made plan design modifications that really came at the exposure of the member. So if you look at page 11, what we're recommending for the 2019 plan year is really a 6% increase in the rate without any plan design changes. Trend in the market right now for inflation in the medical is between 7 and 9%. So 6% is really falling just to shave under what medical trend and inflation is. We're further recommending that the plan on the right that says alternate be offered as a second option to the membership, and it is considered a health savings account compatible plan. Health savings accounts are highly regulated by the IRS, and the plan design has to be such that the first out-of-pocket dollar all goes toward deductibles. So you don't see any copays in this plan. You see everything deductible and coinsurance. So the change in deductible is $2,500 for a single, $5,000 for a family, and their max out-of-pocket for a single is $5,000 single and $10,000 family. Everything else underneath that is deductible and coinsurance. So all first dollar to the member. Once they met their deductible, the plan would pay at 80%, the member would pay at 20%, up until they hit that maximum out of pocket, and then the plan would pay at 100%. This includes pharmacy. So there's no pharmacy copays. The member would pay the full pharmacy up into that deductible. This plan is just shy of a 7% decrease from the current rate. So the recommendation is the current plan offering with 6% increase, and the alternate plan allowing employees to make a choice between which plan best suits their needs. Is everybody familiar with a health savings account?
Can I ask a question on what you just said here? So what is the incentive for an employee to take the alternate plan?
So great question. The 6% less in rate, which will be different depending on if you think the average contribution is 12.5. But with the war on talent today in the marketplace, you have a lot of people coming that are coming out of health savings accounts. 72% of all employers offer some sort of high deductible health plan. So they're coming into the city with health savings accounts already established in many cases, looking to have an HSA to continue to contribute to that for future planning years. So the opportunity for talent is there, and the opportunity for members to be educated and understand the tax savings that it brings to them. It's another offering that keeps competitive in the marketplace.
They pay less of a premium for the policy.
Well, how much are employees paying now per month?
Well, it'd be
Yeah.
between 11.5% or 12.5%, or excuse me, 11.5% to 15.5% of the 618 that, where it says current right here.
So they would save another 6%.
So, yeah. And I believe that alternates compared to the renewal amount, right?
It is, yes, thank you.
I think it's another good choice to give people. I'm familiar with it, and I had that choice.
Oh, they're feeling relatively healthy, so it's about,
Right.
say roughly $200 on a family plan. which is, $2,400 a month.
A year.
A year, I'm sorry. And compared to the family deductible, there's $1,000 difference. So they're still ahead of the game, even if they max out.
And then you can put money in a health savings account. That's
Correct. It
tax-
goes in tax-free, it's interest-bearing, it rolls over.
Right.
Well, they don't have to clean it out at the end of the year?
No,
No.
it rolls over and it
It rolls over.
earns
When did that
interest.
change?
Pardon me?
When did
That's
that-
always been part of the health savings account. There's a health reimbursement account that doesn't do any of
Thinking
those
of flex
things.
benefits.
Flex
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
different.
different, but that's
Yes.
similar but
Okay.
different. Yeah.
Further, if I could tell you the rest of the recommendations and then maybe come back to that, if you flip to page 12. Chairman Galvin, you asked earlier about managing that plan in between. We're recommending some plan management opportunities. One, we'd like to add Teledoc. Teledoc is a 24/7, 365 access to board-certified doctors. Not only is it tele, it also has video capabilities. There is a cost to adding Teledoc, but the break even for Teledoc to be cost neutral is 29 consults. After 29 consults, it would be a planned savings to the plan, but it also serves as an opportunity for your members to access at a different point. Teledoc is going to be very similar in nature to your walk-in retail clinics, where they can diagnose common colds, rashes, things of that nature over the phone and on video at a lesser cost than actually going into a retail clinic or going into primary care. Today, the plan covers colonoscopies and mammograms on a routine preventative basis at 100%. But if you went in for a colonoscopy today and they remove polyps, while it would be covered as routine today, it now becomes on future colonoscopies a diagnosis because polyps were removed. Mammograms, if you went in, same thing. You went in for your routine preventative mammogram. If they found anything that looked funny or needed a checkup, it's going to have a diagnosis on it. In future years, when you go in to get colonoscopies or mammograms, it's going to fall to your deductible and co-insurance. Recommendation is to cover colonoscopy and mammograms, the first one of each plan year, at 100%. The cost to the plan is negligible, but the expense overall in keeping people healthy and going for those mammograms is greater than the exposure to the plan. Pharmacy, we're recommending that we move to a premium formulary program, which it has a return on investment or savings to the city of $107,000, all things being equal today, projecting forward. What this formulary is going to do is it's going to require members to only be able to get certain brands. Best example that I can give you is diabetic supplies. All of the medication is still covered. Nobody's being denied any medication, but instead of getting a certain brand of diabetic supplies, they'll have to get brand B. Members are communicated to and informed upfront. They would receive letters, as does the doctor's office of anybody that's affected. You have 45 members that would be affected, and the medications that are being affected are diabetic supplies and asthma inhalers would be changing brands. So nobody would be limited or told they can't get it, but they're going to be forced into a channel that OptumRx has better pricing and better buying. So it's just managing the law of numbers.
So it's like a
So what you're
generic,
gonna
a different
do-
kind of generic drug, is it?
It could be a different kind of generic. In some cases, it really comes down to the brand.
The brand.
The brand, less than generic. If
So
they're in
what you-
generic, not all generic brands are covered by the same
Okay.
pharmaceutical.
I have the test for my diabetes. And when I changed insurance, then I had to get a new meter and everything. So now you're getting rid, so you're, actually, I think you're wasting. In a way, people are wasting them because now what do you do with that, what you had? It's perfectly usable. You have to change it. Same thing with my asthma. What they want me to use was not, it didn't work. It wasn't good. And so I had to pay the high deductible to get the one that really works for me.
So that's
So I-
a really good comment you make, because if there is a problem with the medication working, there is an appeals process that the medical doctor provider can help through and appeal that, to have that changed. Because the intent isn't to get a less effective, it's really the law of buying and how the pharmaceutical companies purchase in those numbers.
It wasn't that, it probably was effective, but the little unit didn't deliver it properly.
That would be an appeal case, which would likely would have been overturned so that you would be getting the proper medication or dispensing of it.
Okay.
So
I want to make sure that they can.
if the city goes with this premium PDL program, that does away with the other prescription program that we have?
It's actually within that program,
Okay.
and it's that pharmacy benefit manager's formulary.
All right. And kind of like what she was asking, you said like it kind of forces them into a channel. Someone needs a prescription drug, they say you need prescription A. They've tried it before and they have maybe some kind of an adverse reaction to it. Is there an appeal process? So they have to go through an appeal process.
They'd have to go through appeal process.
And how long does that appeal process last while you're waiting to get your medication?
The appeal process can be anywhere from 15 to 30 days.
Okay, I've never had to experience that, but I've heard of people who have. I'm just wondering if 15 to 30 days, does that seem reasonable when you need your medication?
I can tell you that's standard for how those processes work within all pharmacy benefit managers. And we have many clients on that premium formulary with little to no disruption or noise. What happens is if you went in to get it filled, it's going to change at the point of sale at the pharmacy. Yeah. But the appeal process can be 15 to 30 days. Typically what will happen is the pharmacy will dispense the medication, but they'll dispense it at the higher cost. And after the appeal process goes through, the member would be reimbursed and the process going forward would allow that medication.
So
Okay.
they'd still get it right.
Right, and I guess maybe, I don't know, it's a thought, but going forward, if we do go with this program, is there any way of notifying employees who are on prescription drugs on a regular basis, kind of notifying them that, hey, this won't be covered in the future if you want to start the appeal process now before it actually kicks in?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, and actually the intent is to do it 90 days in front of.
all right,
So if this gets approved, that process would happen in October already.
all right, thank you, that eases a lot of my concerns there, thank you.
The next recommendation is on the opioid screening limit. So you all have heard a lot about the opioid epidemic. The American Medical Association has recommended to provider physicians that they screen, you do a urine drug screen to patients who use controlled substance. These urine drug screens on average are costing $600+ They happen typically on a quarterly basis. They're not covered today under the health plan because it's considered not medically necessary. We're recommending that we allow the plan to cover up to $600 a year, which has been the average spend, as an effort to allow the physicians to manage the opioid utilization, to make sure members are have the right amount of medication at the right time, but not be penalized through the plan. Again, this cost of the plan is considered ineligible from a cost standpoint, but it's a big deal to your members who are going to get a $200 drug screen quarterly, or the doctor won't give them the medication. Then following that are additional pre-authorizations. So on the left side column, all of those current items listed are pre-auths today that members, or in most cases, it's the medical facility or physician office that is calling to do the pre-authorization. Nonetheless, there's a pre-auth required for these inpatient stays to the hospital, extended care facilities, residential treatment, and so forth. We're recommending that we add some additional pre-authorizations on the plan. Non-emergent air ambulance, chemotherapy, cancer. Now, the reason you might say, why do you want to pre-auth chemo? People need it and dialysis. It isn't to stop any treatment. It's to allow the case management and utilization management that we work with within UMR to be notified on the front end. So right now, they don't find out anything until a claim comes through. There's a huge lag in claim submission to the insurance company from the providers. Sometimes it's 30, 60, 90 days, 12 months. It's a long delay. You'd be shocked how the delay on a lot of bills. This allows that from a pre-op to know on the front end. You'll see specialty injectable drugs administered in the doctor's office. More and more, there's these orphan drugs coming out, and pharmacy is at a high, rapid trend in growth. While medications are very necessary, what we're trying to get captured with the pre-authorization is what is the right quantity limits to go out for the condition, particularly some medications that you might find a member is on for 10 days, it's not working, they got a 30-day supply. Or they got an injection and they're gonna change the dosage and quantities. We're trying to be on the front end of understanding what's happening, how are these happening, and get case management involved. So these pre-authorizations are really to try to manage betterly within the plan. I just made that word up, by the way, betterly. Caught myself.
I would have to say, based on the amount of prescription drugs turned in to be destroyed at the police department, you extrapolate that throughout the United States, and we are over-prescribing, and I understand you want them to have enough medication, but yeah, with something like this in there, they might have to go to the pharmacy more often, but it's better than having old medication sitting around being used illegally or wrongfully or flushed down the toilet or destroyed. Yeah, I agree.
Then the last recommendation on this sheet is a program called Naturally Slim. It's a digital weight loss program. It's a voluntary program that allows members to engage in this weight loss program. There's a cost to the plan of, for any member that would engage, on average, it's about $280 a year. It's a 12-month program. We know that nutrition and weight has an effect on absolutely every condition within the plan. And we know there's many opportunities, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, whatever. This is digital. It allows people who want to engage on their own time, in their own space. The return on investment on here has been 7-to-1 on members being able to lose weight and get chronic conditions under control. So we're recommending Naturally Slim being implemented as a voluntary option to engage people where they're at the right time for them. There was a lot of stuff in a little. You can back up anywhere you'd like them to.
Is any of this bargainable?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from staff.
Yeah, I mean, well, one, we do have for the next item to talk about this health plan, what we would recommend. And yeah, there are parts of that we can talk about if there's any shifting to the deductibles or any part of the plan. Yeah, some of it is.
Okay. And so this is what you're recommending to the city?
Yes.
And you think this will help us keep costs down or at least keep them flat?
It will help us start to manage what's inside. There's some other pieces we're talking about from a plan management standpoint that we don't have developed enough to bring to you, but these are pieces that we do have developed to get at that.
And how long have you been contracted with the city now?
Well, M3's been contracted with the city for about 12 years, and I've been working with the city in my position for about 8.
Okay, so after studying everything for this last 8 to 12 years, these are things that they feel would help the city do better,
Absolutely.
save more money.
Mhm. Really, the city save money and your members become healthier along the way.
And that's more,
Great,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah.
And that's a good trend to continue.
Yes, yes.
I don't have any further questions.
No,
Anyone else?
okay, answered.
No, I know the county's working on it too, I'm a county supervisor, and this is the problem. The one thing they brought up at the county is, this is all good and everything too, but we have to work on somehow to keep getting the costs out. All this is, the costs are just rising so high, so it is hard for the communities to try to manage this with their employees.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say that your Health 1265 wellness program is a really robust program that is also helping, really to help people get engaged and know whatever their health condition is at. So that program has been successful for the city as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hold on. Cheryl, do you have a question?
I just have a question. For pre-authorization for chemotherapy treatment, how long does that pre-auth take?
Actually, it's supposed to be 72 hours or less.
Okay, just because sometimes that's a quick treatment,
Yeah.
and that chemotherapy is super expensive. So if you, unlike a medication, prescription drug,
Right.
I mean, that could be a lot of money on a treatment. Okay.
72 hours is the timeline.
And that's usually, it takes you usually 3 days to start, but okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right.
Is there any, I don't know if anyone else has?
Any other comments or questions from anybody?
That was just receive and place this on file and then.
Okay. I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
All right.
Whoever you want to choose.
Whoever you want to.
I think Veronica.
Always.
Yeah. So, motion by Alder LaFave and seconded by Alder Corpus Dax to receive and place in file. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. All right. Let me know when you're ready, Melanie.
Ready?
All right, number 2, consideration with possible action on health insurance plans to be effective January 1 of 2019.
And I just have, this is, I think, slide number 11, but just for this, yeah, this is what we'll be looking at for this item. There you go. And as Cindy stated, we're recommending that we keep our current plan going forward, but then we add 6% to the premium for the employee and the city. And then also we're offering an alternate HSA for employees that will choose to take that.
Good idea. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think what Cindy talked about with, recruiting, employees, I think it is helpful to have this option for
I do
them.
too.
I think it's also important to keep in mind that last year we could have had, about a 2% increase to our plan, but we chose not to because our trend was going pretty well.
Mhm.
So I think when she talks about the trend being 7 and 9% across the market, and we're at 6%, that's with that 2% that we didn't take last year too. So I think our plan is doing really well right now.
Is there any thought towards taking our current wellness programs and trying to push, prod, drag the retirees in it? They're relatively young, speaking.
Yeah.
Not patting myself on the back or anything, but to keep them healthy, get them healthier, which is best for everybody, but also to help us keep some of our costs down. It might be an incentive to them too, to save some of those dollars that they have.
I think that idea has been bounced around before, and we can continue to look at it. I think it is a good idea to open up to as many people as we can, and I think another option we've been looking at as well is our, I don't think we'd open up Health 1265 to everyone, but, it's also making sure our spouses and other dependents are being healthy as well. So there's a lot of different things we can look at.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Okay.
What is something similar, I can't remember what, because we have United Health. It's not Silver Sneakers anymore, it's called something else for the Wise. Would they ever consider something like that for the health clubs of Wise that they could join?
Are you-
Silver Sneakers was a program for
Seniors.
seniors, and it was, I think the YMCA is not involved with it anymore, but I think
Medicare
the
is.
Croc Center is.
Okay.
United Health has something, it's not called Silver Sneakers, but it's called something else, so it's like the same thing.
Right.
It's with the Wise
Okay.
and all the health clubs. But Silver Sneakers, I think, is still in effect with Humana, but it's, I don't know if they're doing the Wise, these health clubs. And they're changing that to, they're going to 365 or something.
Well, I think we can continue to look at anything we can do with our retirees to get them engaged or
Sure.
healthier.
All right. You're looking for the same kind of motion as the last one?
No, I think this would be whether you
Enhanced.
approve or deny it.
I'd like to move to approve the health insurance plan as presented.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax to approve the health insurance plan as presented. All in favor?
Aye. Or do we have to
vote on here.
Hmm?
We have to vote on
No.
it?
No, we're good.
Okay, take care.
So we have,
Aye.
it's unanimous, that passes.
Yeah.
And item number 3, consideration with possible action on a request to fill the following replacement positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. Do we want to take these one by one?
It's up to you, you can take them all together, or one by one, it's up to you.
We'll take them all together.
Okay.
Number 8, cleaner part-time from Parks, Rec, and Forestry. E is a bridge tender from Public Works, and C is a housing administrator for Community and Economic Development.
So you do have the memos prepared for you in your packets, the position to fill requests. If you have any questions, we do have staffers that can answer that as well.
I have no
I
questions.
haven't, I don't either.
All right, then I'll look for a recommendation.
I will move that we, would you say, accept the recommendations from staff? Let
Approve
me
the-
go back to where it says about it, let's see.
There can just be a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, okay.
Second.
All right, motion to approve by Alder LaFave, seconded by Alder Dorf. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, that passes unanimously. Item number 4, consideration with possible action on a request to provide benefits for the 4K teacher and 4K naturalist positions.
So at the last meeting, we talked about offering benefits to the teachers and naturalists at the wildlife sanctuary, and we have in your packet the cost breakdown for these employees, and we have it at the family coverage and the single coverage, and we have it budgeted at where the employee would pay 12.5%. So if you look at what it is, what the employee would pay per month, what the city would pay per month, and that come out to an annual cost of $72,336.99. And then there's times where we do have certain employees that are part-time or not full-time employees, and we do prorate what they pay for the benefits. So that's why we also put in the option of if the employee paid 20%, and that'd be a cost of $66,136.67. And then we just did the same breakdown for single coverage. So that would come out to $29,393.44 for if the employee pays 12.5%, or $26,874 if the employee pays 20%. So this is the breakdown, and I think, I'm not sure exactly how it works at the school district, but this would be benefits offered for the full year, even though they would work from September
It works that
to
way.
June. Okay, so that's what I think we recommend, and I think going forward with this, we do have budget coming up. I think it'd probably make the most sense to take this collectively with the entire parks budget to look at whether or not this makes sense to add this or not. And it also might make sense too to start this, maybe not January 1st, but the next school year as well. It does start in September, and it's up to your discretion.
I do know that because I have a grandchild involved, that he was to start the year without a teacher. They couldn't even find a teacher for his class. They perhaps have a sub in there now, do you know? Did they manage to find a teacher?
Yeah, we have a naturalist and then a teacher's aide right now. We're still recruiting for the full-time teacher.
The teacher, right, so they don't even, so, obviously they're not just begging for jobs like we might have been led to believe, and I would like to see this implemented as soon as possible, if there's a way to find the funds for this year. And because we still don't have a teacher for some of the most vulnerable children that we have in our community.
Where would we get the money from, Joe?
I
Or where
think-
would you recommend getting the money from?
Well, I think this would just be from the levy, I think essentially, so I'm not sure if.
Well, we started this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, contingency. Sorry, I think
If we started this year contingency funds?
So it would be
start
like
January 1st.
October, November, December,
Yeah.
maybe.
That'd be about your only
Yeah.
option is contingency, it's a non-budgeted item.
And it'd be for 3 months
3 months, so you
till
divide this.
the new
so
budget
it's-
kicks in,
Correct.
Right. Which would be maybe 25,000.
max.
Something,
Max.
yeah.
Honestly, it could be less, but.
It could be.
I think we could get those numbers for you for Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. How would this affect the hiring process? Would you have to change the application or what you put online? and put those changes in and notify people?
Yeah, it'd be changed. I mean, it's a very minor change. We could easily.
Minor change, but the word's gotta get out, we gotta get the applicants in. How long have you been trying to fill that position, or positions?
I would say we've been trying to fill it for about a month and a half. We had several qualified good candidates who accepted other positions.
Okay.
Within the district.
And when did you start taking applications?
It was about a month and a half ago. would be my
Or they
guess.
don't go sooner out than that?
We do have 2 classrooms, so we do
Right.
have 2 teachers, a need for 2 teachers and 2 naturalists. The one classroom is fully staffed with a teacher and a naturalist. It's the second classroom that we're working on.
Okay.
I think, did someone leave or something? Maybe took a
Yeah,
different
so
job, that's
our
why.
We had last year we only had 1 classroom
Right.
and the teacher left. This year we added a second classroom, so we had to fill not only the teacher position that left, but we had another classroom, so we had to fill 2 teachers and 1 naturalist.
Usually, I mean, in the school district, we're looking in March and April. It's very late to look for someone, but I'm not sure that that's well-known possibly by the Parks Department, that you try to find teachers before they graduate.
Well, the issue is we opened up the second classroom fairly late in the process, so we weren't
Ah.
planning back in March to open the second classroom.
Okay, so that's why. Next year, you
Correct.
might do it differently. Got it.
Are there any more plans for more classrooms at that facility?
In the new facility, there'll be 2 classrooms also, so
And when-
we are not adding in another third. There won't be room for a third.
So you'll
one
have
in the
4
new
rooms
facility.
altogether?
No, we're going to only have 2 next year, and they'll all be in the new addition.
Okay. All right, so we want no more staff, other than?
No, we'll,
Okay.
maximum of 4 staff members out there next year.
All right. Any
Okay.
other questions? Any comments? Motions?
Well, I guess the motion would not be exactly the same. I mean, I'd like to, okay, move that we provide benefits for the 4K teacher and 4K naturalist positions as presented beginning October 1st, 2018.
Does that make sense, Joe? Does that work with council and everything?
That does make sense the way you presented it. I guess my thought would be the teachers and the naturalists that we already have hired would get that at October 1st.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
Yeah,
And I
all
don't,
positions at
right. The naturalist and the teacher, right.
All right.
the.
So
second-
the motion on the floor by Alder Dorf is that we start providing benefits to the current and future teachers that you're going to be hiring October 1st of this year. And that the money would be,
Yeah, maybe.
and then the money would be
using
coming from the
the
contingency fund.
Okay.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. For this year.
Does that work for everybody? Make sense?
well, I think the motion would make sense. I think probably what I'll do is I'll speak with Director Ditchite and Director Ellenbecker before next Tuesday and see how we're gonna make this work, and then probably come back to it on Tuesday if that's, or get back to you before next Tuesday. That's what my thought would be, but it's obviously up to the council.
Well, yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. All right, so that's the motion on the floor. Made by Alder Dorf. I need a second. Second by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Number 5. Consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Galvin to modify the personnel policy, Chapter 9, by adding a bone marrow and organ donor policy for city employees. Staff.
So at the last meeting, it was brought forward to look at this policy, and we looked into it, and I think the request was to give the same type of leave benefit that the state gives to their employees. So if you look at the statutes, Wisconsin Statute 103.11 controls for the bone marrow and organ donation leave. It gives up to 6 weeks leave in a 12-month period to be for the purpose of serving as a bone marrow or organ donor. And then there are some conditions on that the employee would have to provide a certification to the employer that they are going to be a donor. And then also that the leave would only be necessary to undergo the surgery and also to recover from the procedure. So what we did was We looked at the statute that allows for up to 6 weeks leave in a 12-month period. That also allows for us to give a more generous leave. So we took the benefit from that the state gives to state employees, and we added that to employees, where if you look at 9.8.2, where it talks about how we would give paid off leave to an employee up to 5 days for a bone marrow donation and up to 30 days for a procedure for a organ donation. And then if the leave does exceed the days, then the employee will have to substitute vacation or personal time for that. So then it talks about the eligibility for employees, that if you have to work more than 52 consecutive weeks and for at least 1,000 hours during that 52-week period, and then the notice that it has to be a reasonable and a practical matter for the employer, and that the employee should make reasonable effort to schedule it around the employer's operations to not unduly disrupt our operations. And then also that it's very likely that the bone marrow organ donor will meet the requirements of Family Medical Leave Act. So if that does occur, that person will have to apply through FMLA, and those FMLA days will count concurrently with it. And then it also goes through in our policy that the complaint procedure, that if the individual does have an issue with how we're providing this policy or the rights of an employee, that they can file a complaint with the Department of Workforce Development.
That looks
good.
That looks good. That
The
covers-
9.8.4, the only thing is, you have to have it in there, but I'm sure you're gonna work with the person, because like an organ donor, or someone's gonna get the organ, I mean, they get it, you have to be there. So they have to just leave. They can't, say, say he says, I can't leave until the end of the week. That ain't
Yeah.
gonna work.
Yeah, I think that's
So
where,
just
how
do-
the statute's written, where it says, in a reasonable and practical manner, and also reasonable effort to schedule.
Right.
So they're gonna do whatever they can. We
Make
will
sure that
hold
it's,
them.
I'm
Yeah,
sure-
that's
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure the city knows in advance that employee A is going to be an organ donor. That kind of gets the
Probably
ball
would,
rolling.
yeah,
And
probably
FMLA
would
is
have
all
to
applied
notify,
for.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Joe. That's very good.
And then the last thing is that we'll just reformat and renumber Chapter 9 to insert this language.
Okay.
All right.
Move to
Motion.
approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Corpus
Second.
Dennis. Second by Alder Dorf. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Number 6, Alder Weary, consideration with possible action on request by Alder Weary to restore an assistant to the city council position.
So Alderperson Weary did reach out to me and asked that I put this job description together. He said that he's unable to make it tonight, but he did communicate to me that he felt like this position would be a part-time position and that it would just be an assistant to the common council, not to the mayor.
That's how I was reading it. I was kind of, I don't think, that wasn't his request to go to the mayor too. It was for the council to have somebody to help them. I guess they used to have one?
Yes, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, there used to be an assistant to the mayor and the common council.
Okay.
And that was out of the mayor's office, somewhere in that grouping of rooms?
Yes.
Well, I know it says not to be assistant to the mayor and council, but he wants it to be just an assistant to the council.
Yep, that's correct.
But I guess my concern would be, this person, say they're hired to work 20 hours a week, and they only have 10 hours. Well, I don't think we expect them to just sit there and not do anything. And if this mayor's office or staff somewhere else in the building has work to do, how do we get around that without creating when it comes to this kind of a thing, how does that work?
I think typically we would have them, we usually just don't let people take off, but if, I guess they do, they have to use a personal leave or things like that. I
Right.
think we would do our best to find some meaningful work for the person.
All right.
Would they be able to assist older women too? Because it just says assist older men.
It should be alders.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Maybe older person might.
Where was
I'm
that?
not in favor of this position whatsoever, but.
Function 4.
Function 4 is assist older men.
Oh, yeah.
And this was taken from old language, so I apologize, I did not catch that. That was my fault.
Alder Johnson.
Yeah, I was just reviewing it, and a couple thoughts too. I guess one is I wouldn't necessarily support having it be that dual role either. I don't think that was the intent of the communication. And with all due respect to the mayor's office, I feel like there's probably ample support there. And I think Alderman Weary's intent was to look at supporting for council-related functions. But I think just the nature of the responsibility strikes me as odd as well, when we're looking at someone to do what are basically administrative-related functions, but also have the expertise and skill set to write what appears to be pretty comprehensive grants. So that concerns me, and I think that also flies into the next agenda item, which is about the grant writer position. But the one thing that I'd like to toss out there as an alternative, and when I look at a lot of the responsibilities that are listed on here, I can't help but think that these are things that could give a lot of experience to interns, to some of our students who are looking to learn about public service and government-related activities. And I'd be curious to know if we've ever considered that at this level, and specifically, rather than funding a salaried position, and again, I don't know what the math on this would work out, but what if, much like what you see in other state positions or congressional positions where a budget is given to positions, if this is something that could be considered where each alder is given a budget to maybe interview and hire their own intern. If they don't want to do that, they just give the money back to the city. But then it could at least achieve that objective, and I think much more cost effectively than what a full-time position would certainly provide. So just, again, wanted to toss it out there as an option, but I would leave it up to the committee for debate.
Right. I don't want to create a position that's going to be at odds with the mayor's office. And there's been some contention between the alders and the mayor's office in the past, and I don't want to have a position where this person is made to feel that they're there to serve the alders and not to work with city staff. And that's kind of my concern, the way some of this wording came out on this too. I want a position that's there. I would like to see something in place. There's a lot of stuff that I have questions about, things I've made recommendations for, and I just don't have the time to go digging into the computers or to be contacting other municipalities or, looking up stuff online. I kind of like your idea, but I'm not sure how we would administer that too. And what if we hire someone and they turn out to be a clunker? And because again, we're part-time too, and we're not there to monitor them. That they have an office in here where someone, let's face it, they're kids, college kids, young, trying to learn, who mentors them and helps them along and points them in the right direction when they're having a problem or something like that. But it's kind of a neat idea, even if it wasn't just one per alder, but.
They need 12 offices.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
and it gets crazy.
Plus, well, I guess when I look at the job description, I kind of feel like that's my job. I mean, I'm supposed to handle citizen complaints and develop responses and promote public relations by participating and representing the city with various community organizations. I mean, that's kind of why I'm an alder.
Right.
And I could not delegate many of these things.
Well, this is based on an old job description.
Yeah,
that
so
he's
this
pulling
is
out.
not, I mean, this is completely.
It has to be.
This is a high-level job description
Has to be
here.
But,
Right.
another thing though too, anybody you would have come in has to work with city, they're gonna have to work with city staff. I don't think, this doesn't.
Right, they're a
you said
city
it doesn't work
employee,
right, but they
they-
have to work with city
right.
staff. They're gonna have to get, you have questions and you have to research them. I think maybe it's not right the way it's on here, but it's something that could be worked out. It's a work in progress, I guess we'd have to say. But an intern is good. I think that's a good, students that they want to go into public, what do you call it, public, not office, but public,
Public sector?
yeah, public sector. Trying to think of the word. I think they'd be able to find someone that would be very well interested in getting into the government part too.
Sure, Barb.
I just don't see the necessity to have an assistant to a city council position. I certainly I feel that city staff, I've worked well with city staff, they've worked well with me. If there's anything that I need to find out, they either can point me in the right direction or have the answer for me. Part of my responsibility, part of what we are paid, or what we're paid, is not just to sit in meetings, but also to do some of the research and the work that comes up along the way, and to find out answers to our own questions. And 12 people fighting over one little intern assistant, I don't see how that would be very effective. I am not in favor of this position, so I'll just leave it at that.
I'm in favor of it. I see a need for it. I understand a lot of what you're describing those are our jobs. And what's described here is a lot of stuff that I feel is our jobs. But I also feel that there would be some use. And I have gone to city staff. They've always been very helpful. But there have been times when getting a response back has been quite a long time. Because in the hierarchy of things, more important things get in front of that, and it's sometimes been longer than I would like to get answers on things, and or questions or materials. And I feel guilty sometimes when I give them a task to do, because I just think how much more other stuff they have, and this is going to tie up their time and drag them down and make everything else they're trying to do just be that much longer.
Where do you think this person's going to get the answers from? How are they going to have all the knowledge on their own? Aren't they going to be going to the very city staff that we've already went to and asking?
Well, they could maybe, like you said, get pointed in the right direction. They could do some of the research themselves. This is a position that, even if it's part-time, this could be a part-time position for someone that used to work in city staff and is retired and is just looking to, to stay somewhat active, a part-time job, but enjoy their retirement. It may not be a college kid who's learning the ropes. It may be, I've seen other city staff from here. There was a fireman that became an insurance expert and was hired as an advisor to city after he retired.
And how are things? I guess there's so many questions. How are things going to be prioritized? Who gets the access to the person, and who's the boss?
Absolutely. I think
There's
if
a
we
lot.
pursue this, there's a lot more questions that need to be answered.
There's more to be done on this, yeah.
Based on what you have here, again, like we've said, a lot of this would not apply to what we, at least I'm seeing, as what we would need. And so, I guess I would send this maybe back to Chris to have him write out what he's looking for, and maybe we move forward from there.
I think so, yeah.
Clarify it a little bit, and then we can make a better decision
And
going
maybe,
forward if this is something that the rest of us all want.
And maybe other alders too can make suggestions if they, something that they felt that they needed help with. They felt, that this person could help them with. So,
When did we lose this position? And why?
Yeah, it goes back a little more than 10 years.
Is there any reason, just budgetary cut or?
Or maybe some restructuring. My recollection, I've been here a while, but I think they probably just did a little restructuring.
Was it a part-time position at the time?
No, it was full-time.
Okay.
And that person reported to the mayor and to city council, just as this job description shows. It's very different than what I think is being asked for
What I think
here.
Chris was looking for, absolutely. Ryan, do you have any other thoughts on this?
I agree with Alderdorf's point about splitting one person and how do you manage that, because
Right.
clearly that time could quickly get dominated by somebody, which is why I proposed maybe a budget allocation towards each alder, where if they want to hire their own intern, they can do that. But that was the purpose of splitting that up.
Sure.
I don't think you need 12 offices. I mean, everything's remote nowadays. We don't have offices here at City Hall. So it's,
And so then, really, they can work from their home if they want to.
right.
sure.
Any other thoughts, or?
I'd be fine with sending this back to Chris. 'Cause, yeah, I agree. This isn't, reading it, this isn't what he wanted.
Well,
But I
agree.
also don't agree with there being a split of you work with just the alders, you don't work with
Right.
city staff.
I can say that I did send a job description to him, I think like a week or two ago, and what was sent to me today was this is fine, just not an assistant to the mayor's office. So there might have been some miscommunication, but this was sent to him to look at. So I think maybe Alderman Weary and all the persons could get back to me with more suggestions on how they want this to look. I think that makes sense.
So we're table it or
It's up to you guys, either refer it, table it, it's up to you
or
guys.
refer it back to Alder Weary?
Yeah.
That's a valid motion. Okay.
Make that motion.
I'm looking for a second.
You're making it, okay.
No, I'm looking, no.
Oh, you want me to make
Motion by
one?
Alder LaFave to refer back to Alder Weary for more clarification.
I'll second it.
Second by Alder Corpus Dax. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No,
Okay, we have 3 ayes with Alder Dorf being a no. All right, number 7, consideration with possible action on request by Alder Galvin to institute a grant writer position and work with all city departments. The new position was bring in more funds than the cost of salary and benefits. I was contacted by an individual that attempted to write a grant for the city for renewable energy. And that person found it almost impossible to get any decent information from all the different various departments to get the grant together in time. And the city potentially lost out on some monies there. I know from working at the police department, we would have ad hoc people write grants which would be added on to the regular duties. Some were good, some were not so good. And then there's the maintaining of the grants, that they have to be done yearly and things like that. There's many grants out there that the department is involved, that the city's involved with, that are annual grants, and some of those become fairly easy to redo. But I also think there's a lot of grants out there that we're not hitting we're hitting but the tip of the iceberg on. And as we're looking to save tax dollars and become a more efficient and better community, well, just for example, bike and pedestrian, there's upwards of $300,000 a year available from state and federal grants that the city could be taking advantage of. And then after I've talked to a couple of different departments, I talked to finance, they said, obviously you have to be careful when you're doing these grants, that you're not getting yourself into a rabbit hole where there's a lot of matching grants that you don't have the tax dollars for, or matching dollars for the grants. So what I'm looking for is a full-time position that generates enough grants that basically we can say it kind of covers the salary. At least it's worth having that person around. That person would obviously have to work with all the different departments and reach out to some of the staff to get information, but I'm hoping it would save staff in those departments a lot of work and effort of writing and maintaining grants. And so allowing them to have more time for other duties and be more efficient. So
Okay, right.
that's what I'm looking for. Barb?
and I did some research on it because I wondered what the school district had. And because when I left, they didn't actually have an official grant writer. We all did our own grants. But now they have someone that supports grant writing. And I asked her, would she say that the grants she's written and has supported have brought in at least as much as her salary? And she said they've brought in many times her salary, and I know that to be true.
Okay.
We also have several people in the community that the school district contracts with to write grants. There's a small amount of money in their budget. I think it was $1,500 last year. And there are people out there that do a very good job writing grants. So there's a pool of people out there, a pool of candidates out there. We might want to think about contracting with them, or we might want to think about a position. I think it's probably a really good idea because there are funds out there. There are funds that the city could use to improve the quality of life, and I think it would be a great idea to look at hiring a grant writer.
Alder
I think
LaFave.
what Barb mentioned, we should look into either consulting, consulting to help us, or to have an actual city staff person. So I think you should look at both,
So,
see which,
okay, let's hold that just for a second. Veronica, or Alder?
I like the idea. I think, definitely be beneficial to the city.
Okay. Does anyone on the to speak out here?
Can I just add
Sure.
one comment on the record, Vanessa Chavez, City Attorney? If you're gonna put a condition that they bring in more than their cost of salary and benefits, that sounds more like a contractor than an employee.
Okay.
And so I think you guys kind of need to figure out which direction you want to go. Because if you want to make that a contingency, we really should structure it as a contractor, whereas if you're just assuming or you know that there's enough availability out there to cover it, then you just go with straight employee.
That's a contractor. Do we want a position of a contractor?
Or we just
Yeah.
don't want to put, I mean, we don't want to.
Do we
Just-
want to
Well,
look at
maybe
the
we
options
wanna-
of contracting or?
We could
versus-
do that,
That's what I said.
and we could, if we decide to hire an employee, after a few years, decide, is it worth it? Or, you know, it doesn't have to be forever,
That's-
positions aren't forever
Yeah.
sometimes, but we could look at both ways of doing it.
Mhm. To see what's a better goal.
So
Hmm.
what would you like to see for a motion?
What it-
For it to staff.
Okay,
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, NWTC has grant writers, and I mean, I wonder if there's just a partnership that could be had there.
and UWGB and St. Norbert
Sure.
and the school
Okay.
district, and,
Sure.
there's lots of grant writers.
Because, I mean, there's, in addition to writing the grant, which is a very technical set of skills
Right.
that our staff may or may not have, there's, I mean, knowing where to find the grants.
Right.
well, and that's why I'm looking
right.
for someone full-time that's dedicated to perusing state, federal, and there's private organizations.
yes.
And maybe you look at some of these contractors that are out there and see, you know, if they're interested.
Well, obviously, yeah, all right.
in full-time.
Well, then,
But maybe refer it to staff.
I'll make a motion to refer to staff that they investigate contracting positions versus full-time positions. And come back with some recommendations on costs and processes involved.
I second it.
Okay. Do we have a
Sorry.
second? I'm sorry.
You
I was
were like,
thinking-
oh, say it. Yeah, you did
All
real
right,
good.
Were you done?
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Good, okay. E, informational, report of routine personal actions for regular employees.
So we do have that report in your packet, and I did talk to City Attorney Chavez that you can take both items up at the same time if you want, just to receive and place on file.
Okay, next meeting date is September 25th, because we're back into 2-a-month, right?
Right.
Okay. So September 25th at 4:30.
4:30.
Yep.
I'll,
Move to receive and place on file the informational items 1 and 2.
okay.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Dorf, second by Alder Corpus Dax to receive and place in file items 1 and 2 under letter E. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and no public hearings, and motion to adjourn.
Second.
No.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Motion by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder LaFave to adjourn, and for adjourn.
Aye. And leave the meeting.
Okay, now. All right. so where's my-
You just have to go all the way back out. Just
Where's
go
my-
all the
keep
way
going.
back out.
Just go to back to
Agendas, go back
agendas.
to agendas.
Yeah.
Here we go.
There you go. You gotta remember to-